If we want to understand about mental health, or rather our mental health in particular, then we need to understand about society. Or we don't need to understand what is going on in society, what it's really about, which is a very different thing from what it purports to be about, what it represents itself as being about. So there are these two very different aspects to the social world. The images that it uses, and this corresponds a lot to the images that we see in popular culture and advertising, and the actual invisible mechanics of what's going on. And needless to say, our attention is completely trapped by the superficial images, and it's fair to say that we don't get that much insight into what's going on really in society. In the past they had these people called sociologists, and sociologists were great because that's what they did. They looked into what was really going on. So Karl Marx, for example, who was probably one of the earliest sociologists, looked beneath the surface, which we all accept and we all take for granted, and which seems fine to us. And he said, this isn't fine. There's stuff going on here that's crap. Only he said that in not quite those words. He said it with a better use of vocabulary, but it kind of comes to the same thing. So when we see what's really going on, it's rather monstrous. And not just from Karl Marx's perspective. All true sociology reveals something monstrous. How can it not? Now, having said this, we have to acknowledge that something happened to sociology, and they started coming to existence, these creatures called right-wing sociologists, or sociologists who are also in favour of the social structure, which is a nonsense. Obviously there can't be any such thing. And I'd say that I really don't have a clue, but I'd say this kind of heralded the death knell of sociology. And sociologists try to fit in and be approved by the big boys. Then that's it, really. The whole thing becomes a joke. So, what is it that goes on in the social world? What is it? What's it really about? And this isn't as easy to answer as we might think. One way to try to get at it is to say that the social world that we live in is all about doing. It's predicated upon doing, as if doing were the only thing that mattered or matters. And when we say doing, it's purposeful doing, really, which kind of goes without saying, because when I say I do something, this very strongly implies a purposeful nature to it. I do it. It's me doing it. I'm the author of the doing. I'm the agent. So the thing about doing is that it is deliberate. And what that means is that it comes out of our picture of the world, our rational model or theory of the world. That all purposeful doing has to come out of our theory of the world. And that's fine, there's a place for that. As long as we've got the ability to relativize doing and see that it does. So relativizing doing means seeing that it does come out of our picture of the world. And when we see that, we automatically know that our picture of the world is only our picture of the world, or it is only our model of the world. So that contextualizes it and puts it in perspective. But we don't do this. We neglect to qualify our doing by saying it is doing that comes out of our assumptions or constructs of the world. So as a result of not drawing attention to this pertinent fact, we glorify doing, we make it into something very strange, even though we can't see that it's very strange. It is very strange. So what happens then with the unrelativized doing is that it becomes, as I said, it becomes glorified. It's glorified and it becomes a supreme principle of existence, which is utterly ridiculous, but it really and truly does. So every single one of us, we see our worth, either explicitly or implicitly, in terms of our doing, how well we're able to do what we do, how we are recognized for our doing, our agency, our ability to control. So it's not enough to say that society is based on doing, because we then have to see that doing creates two big possibilities, only two possibilities, which is successful doing and failed doing. Doing that does what it's supposed to do, and doing that fails to do what it's supposed to do. So inasmuch as we construct ourselves on the basis of doing, we're also constructing ourselves as winners and losers. And this is nothing new to point out that this is our way of looking at human beings, and that this is our way of working out what we're worth, our stature, whether we're worth anything or not, whether we're worth taking seriously or not, whether we have actual status as being somebody, or whether we're utterly insignificant, whether we make the grade or don't make the grade. So that's fair enough. But the absurdness or absurdity comes in because we're assuming that this doing is all important, and that what we're doing is the thing that we're doing is great and real and very, very important, highly, highly significant, and that's why it's a really great thing if we do it, and that's why it's such a terrible thing if we don't do it. Which hardly needs to be spelled out in this way, because we all know that implicitly, but we don't know it explicitly. We just assume it, and it just makes sense to us because that's the way we have of looking at the world. And so we never look at the hell is it that we're doing. If you're to pin someone down, try and find out what this great thing is that they are doing, and we could do that to society as a whole and say, well, society made up of lots of doers, it's one big doing, and we can see this. We can go to a big city and we can see it's buzzing and throbbing with doing, Maybe not quite so much in the middle of the COVID lockdown, but that's the basic idea. It's all this activity and something's being done, because it's not just activity, it's purposeful activity. But what the hell's being done? What exactly is it that's being done? And this question really cuts to the heart of the matter. Because whatever the hell it is that society is doing isn't really that significant. It's not really an important thing, really. The outcome of all the activity in a big industrial city like London, the machine is working and someone's coming out of the machine, obviously, because it wouldn't be much point in having a machine if that wasn't happening. What is it that's coming out? Why are we working so hard, and why is our life consumed by this activity? And it's the one thing that it isn't is happiness or well-being or peace of mind or an enhanced appreciation of what it means to be alive. I mean, that's the one thing it isn't. All of those things, which come down to the same thing. It isn't that, so it's something else. But anything else doesn't really matter that much. If we fail to be working at enhancing our perception and appreciation of what it means to be alive, which is where our quality of life lies, and the depth of our understanding, and the subtlety of our ability to subtly relate to the world, because the world is a subtle kind of a thing. It's endlessly subtle. So the more we look into it, and the subtler we get at interacting with it, the more meaning there is in our life. So does the way of life that we have work towards that? And that's a rhetorical question, of course, but we all know it doesn't. So as soon as we start looking at this in this way, we can see that whatever the hell it is we're doing, it's nothing significant, really. It's just a big load of fuss. And that isn't to dismiss all of human purposeful activity, because human purposeful activity is a very important part of our activity. If I'm cold and I light a fire, that's important human activity. If I get some food, that's really important human activity. All of these things are really important, but they're not the apex. When we've taken care of all the things that we need to take care of, we're still sitting there. And at that point, we could say, well, we can get on with living life, but we never do get on with living life, because we never do get to the end of doing all this purposeful stuff, because after it there's more and there's more and there's more. And the reason for that is we're covering up a void, because we have nothing else. That's all we have. So because we have nothing else, we glorify it, and we imply, without actually stating it, because it would look really stupid to say it, it would look really stupid because it's obviously dumb, that our that our doing, our purposeful doing, is going to bring us something wonderful, something transcendently wonderful, maybe something really great. So that's the implication, and we all buy into that implication, and we all, most of us, imagine that someone who is a really successful doer and who is celebrated and lauded by society as such, that they've got this wonderful thing, and that's why they're looking so smug and pleased with themselves, and they've made it, as they say. But having made it doesn't really just mean that we don't have to worry about where we're going to get food the next day. It doesn't mean that. It means it's symbolic. It's symbolic for the ultimate validation of human existence. That's what we are implying without ever saying it, and we won't say it because it sounds stupid, as I was just pointing out. So we've mixed two things up. We've mixed purposeful doing up with life. So life has become a big doing to us. And yet doing is only ever doing. Even if it's a really, really important thing that I'm doing in pragmatic, practical terms, it's still doing when I've done it. That does not free me or excuse me from the main thing in life, which is more of a philosophical thing, if we can use that word in a particular way. Probably it's more of an old-fashioned usage of the word than is prevalent now, having to do with the meaning of our lives, or the meaning of existence, not in an abstract, I read it in a book type way, but in a personal, totally personal way that we know for ourselves and no one told us, no one can tell us. So there is that type of relating or relatedness with reality. That is what it's really about. And it might kind of seem high-handed to say what things really are about. But what what it means is if we don't do that, we'll feel empty and hollow, and we'll be feeling bad because we haven't addressed what we really need to address in order to feel more whole or more alive. So that's all it means, really. We're only utilizing a certain part of ourselves, and the rest of us doesn't get any look in at all because we've ignored it. So that's not a good recipe for anything, really. It's like going around with a really big unrealized part of ourselves. And society won't acknowledge that this is what's happening, and it won't acknowledge that it is encouraging it by glorifying purposeful doing, as if that will produce all the answers. Society will never admit that that is what it is doing, even though it's very, very clear, just as soon as we start looking a little bit beneath the surface, that this is exactly what it is doing. This is what the winner culture is all about. Winner is symbolic for some kind of supreme existential validation or realization, or it's kind of hard to put the right word on it, but fulfillment maybe is a better word. So we have this kind of competition going on, and the person who can do the thing the best gets to be the winner, and that's fine. That's the definition of a game, and we say what needs to be done, and we very, very hugely oversimplify reality to say, to turn it into a game and say it's all about doing this, which in the case of football could be about kicking a ball between two posts or into a net. Doesn't matter. That's our simplification. That becomes supremely significant. And in fact, in a game, there is nothing more significant than winning within the terms of a game. Within football, there is nothing more significant than winning the match. Well, apart from winning the World Cup, maybe, but that is the same thing. There is, if we say winning the World Cup, there is nothing more significant. That's it. That's what it all is. And within the terms of the game, that's fine. But when we look at it from outside of the terms of the game, we can see that winning the match or winning the World Cup is profoundly meaningless, really. Because after we've done it, we're still exactly in the same place. Philosophically speaking, we haven't done anything. We've just distracted ourselves. So it's an oversimplification. It's an analogue of life. And the difficult thing about life is it's not so clear-cut, and it's not just a matter of kicking a ball between two posts or into a net. Nobody really can say what it is. Well, they can say, but they always do say, but they're always lying at the same time, because life can't be oversimplified that way. So what we've done in our society is to oversimplify everything hugely without, of course, admitting that we've done so, and make these puerile, trivial, stupid games the be-all and the end-all, thus ensuring our existential angst forever. We've sold ourselves short in a big way. So if we wanted to put it like that, we could say society is this huge collective endeavour, impressive on the outside, maybe, whose sole purpose is to distract us from life. That's what games are. They're distractions from everything that isn't the game, because we make the game everything. And that means there is no anything to take any heed of. So the whole point of our society under the surface, on the surface, it's to achieve great things, and everything's great, and aren't we achieving great things, and it's all this kind of illusion of progress and getting better and better, and everything's splendid. Under the surface, when we look into it, what it's about is selling ourselves short, hugely short, because life never was about that. Obviously, life never was about that, because what our material culture says life is about is crass in the extreme. You could say that there'd have to be something wrong with us to believe that that's what life is about. It couldn't be that stupid. Only, of course, we are. We are that stupid. Or it certainly seems that we are, because we do take it very, very seriously. And when the politicians talk in this very adult kind of a way about all these important things, we don't see that all this talk is just to distract us from the fact that society and our whole way of life, our whole collective endeavour, is all about selling ourselves short. Now, if a politician were to in any way address that, that would be great. We could say, here's a human being who isn't completely asleep on their feet. Here's a human being that's actually got a little bit of sense in them. And that'd be great, as I say. The only thing is, that never happens. Politicians never care about anything important, and politicians who are who we elect to run the world. Okay, thanks for watching.